This mom was in court for $300 parking fines. But then her daughter told the judge she was starving. Hello, I am Tilda and welcome to WatchZozo. When one mom arrived in court to face hundreds of dollars of parking charges, she no doubts expected the worst. When her daughter took to the stand, everything changed. Why? Well, the little girl told the judge that she was starving, and it melted his heart completely. Thousands of people know Frank Caprio as the no-nonsense judge on TV caught in Providence. However, his history goes much further back than that. Indeed, he studied law at night school while working as a teacher and was appointed to the bar in 1965. 20 years later, he became the chief judge at Providence Municipal Court, and since then he has evidently proven popular with those at Providence City Council as they have re-elected him 6 times. He also founded the law firm Caprio & Caprio and remains a senior partner there. However, it wasn't until the year 2000 that the cameras began rolling for Cotton in Providence, and Caprio started to become more widely known. The show first aired on local access television in Providence, but it soon moved to ABC 6 WLNE. The show features real people and real court cases, and although some may consider him the star of the show, Caprio sees nothing frivolous about his role. "I'm not here on the court to be an entertainer," he has said in the past. "My primary role is to do justice." Still, that hasn't stopped YouTube clips of some of Cotton Providence's cases from going viral, and one such episode from 2017 particularly caught the public's attention. It featured a woman who had turned up for court with her 2 daughters in tow. The woman in question had wound up in front of Judge Caprio after authorities accused her of parking on a sidewalk. Then, when she was faced with a $100 fine, she failed to pay up. When the woman arrived in court, though, Caprio seemed more interested in talking to her 6-year-old daughter, Janice. So he called the little girl up to the stand to find out more about her. He asked her, for instance, what her favorite subjects at school were, and she answered that they were math and English. As they built up a rapport, Caprio went on to ask what Janice wanted to be when she grew up, and when she told him that she wanted to be a teacher, he was delighted. "Wonderful thing for you to do. That's a great job. That way you can help other people to improve their lives, right?" "Yes." On this occasion, though, Caprio needed Janice's help in a different way. He wanted her to help judge her mom in a fair and honest way. And thankfully, the clever little girl agreed to his proposition, so after relaying her mom's charges, Caprio asked the defendant if she had an explanation. "I went to my cousin's house to pick up something. They were having a party, and I didn't want anybody to hit my car, so I went on the firewall." Judge Caprio then gave Janice 2 options. She could charge her mom with all the penalties, which would total $300, or she could waive the penalties and just have her mom pay the original $100 ticket. But then Caprio revealed a third option. He could do something kind for Janice's mom. For instance, they could cut the fine to $50, or if Janice thought it was fair, he could drop the charges altogether and her mother would get away without paying a cent. When quizzed, Janice decided that the fairest option was to charge her mom $50. "So you want to charge $50? However, Caprio decided to change the subject for a second. He asked Janice what she'd had for breakfast that morning, and her response appeared to move him. Janice explained that she hadn't eaten anything before arriving at the courthouse. "So what did you have for breakfast this morning?" "I don't have anything for this morning." The little girl admitted it was then that Judge Caprio decided to make a deal with her mom. He said that if the woman agreed to buy her children breakfast after her court appearance, then he'd dismiss the case. "So I'll charge a $0 if she buys you breakfast, if you say it's okay. But if you say it's not okay, then she's going to pay the $50. What do you think, breakfast?" Faced with another option, Janice agreed that the offer of breakfast was the best deal, and after giving Judge Caprio a heartwarming hug, she made her way out of the courtroom with her family. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the touching judgment proved popular with Cotton Providence's viewers. The footage soon began to circulate online, too, and one clip on YouTube clocked up more than 5,000 views. And how can I vote for him? This kind of compassion is needed all over. I wish there was more compassion in the world and we'd stand with each other, helping one another rather than just handing out harsh punishments. Another added, We have lost a sense of compassion, and punishment has become the #1 goal for government in this case. Perhaps Judge Caprio was right to go easy on the struggling mom by charging her the full penalty. He would arguably have been taking food out of her children's mouths, and his actions prove that even people in power can have the softest of hearts.
Rescuers are nursing orphan mountain lion cub saved from wildfire back to health. Hello, I am Wade and welcome to WatchZozo. A wildfire is currently ravaging the Shasta County of California and is leaving unfathomable destruction in its wake. It has caused significant damage to both human life and property and has been especially devastating for the local wildlife. On Sunday, a mountain lion cub found himself trapped by the wildfire, but was luckily found and rescued by a firefighter who was able to get him to the Oakland Zoo for treatment. The little cub's paws were severely burned and his whiskers had been singed off. An X-ray showed that the cub had, thankfully, not broken any bones and had not sustained any critical damage to his lungs as a result of smoke inhalation. However, the soft tissue of the cub's paws showed significant damage and the cub was in dire need of pain medication. The little mountain lion also required antibiotics to stave off any infections, and he also needed extra fluids. Apart from the damage to his paws, the cub was also found to be experiencing irritation of his eyes. But all in all, the cub had gotten lucky. The very fact that he even gotten out of the fire alive was a miracle in and of itself. The little cub, who was only between 4 and 6 weeks old, weighed less than 4 pounds and had to be fed formula through a syringe. The Oakland Zoo has sought help from the UC Davis Veterinary Medicine Teaching Hospital to treat the little cub and are very proud over how the community has come together to protect the wildlife during this time of crisis. The Oakland Zoo, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, CAL FIRE, UC Davis Veterinary Medicine Teaching Hospital, and the Shasta County Sheriff's Department are all working collaboratively to minimize the hurt and damage to the wildlife. Even under normal circumstances, the Oakland Zoo regularly offers the California Department of Fish and Wildlife their help, resources, and expertise when it comes to protecting the wildlife. They have, for example, been known to step in and care for mountain lions, which have been struck by cars, and the CDFW have expressed their deep gratitude for their fantastic support. As of now, the little cub is still being treated for his burns, but his prognosis is positive. Due to the skilled veterinary team and the Oakland Zoo's unwavering dedication, the little cub will hopefully be successfully healed and rehabilitated. Since he's now an orphan, the cub will not be able to return to the wild after he's recovered. He is far too young to survive on his own and will therefore have to be placed in the care of an accredited zoo that will be able to give him a long and happy life. Thanks to the brave firemen, the Oakland Zoo, and all the countless others who did their utmost to help him, this little cub has been given a second chance at life, and we are so grateful for that. Seeing how much bravery, compassion, and dedication people are mustering up to protect wild animals is heartwarming and inspires so much hope and faith in humanity and the future. This circus baboon was finally rescued, but then they saw tears pouring down his face. Today we have a heartbreaking story about a baboon named Tillin. Tillin was being kept captive in a small cage in Bolivia, and he was forced to perform every single day. Luckily, things took a turn for the better when he was rescued from the circus, but something was still missing from his life, and this made him sad. This little guy is Tillin, and he has been living a stressful life in the circus. While most people might think that the circus is awesome, things aren't always what they seem to be. Just look at the chain around Tillin's neck. After spending 17 years locked up inside a tiny cage, the baboon was finally rescued. The group who rescued Tillin is called ADI, Animal Defenders International, and they were the ones who cut the chain from his neck. You won't believe what the rescuers had to say about Tillin. The rescuers said that Tillin was depressed. The poor baboon lived his entire life in captivity and didn't even know what freedom was. The worst thing about it is that Tillin didn't get to do much exercise, and he couldn't move that well. Seeing how Tillin is not able to move, and he just sits in the corner of his cage, the rescuers called a doctor to check him out. You are going to be shocked when you find out what the doctor had to say about Tillin. The doctor said that Tillin's health will recover in due time, but he is emotionally stressed and doesn't know what to do now that he is out of the circus. Although, who could blame the little baboon for being sad when considering that he lived 17 years in the circus? The rescuers started feeding Tillin healthy food, and they re-give him every day in hopes that he will become comfortable around humans. Do you think this worked? It didn't take long for Tillin to get used to his new home. He was healthier than ever, but something was still missing from his life, and the rescuers couldn't tell what it was. Even though Tillin was feeling better and he was being fed healthy food, the baboon was still sad. It didn't take long for the rescuers to figure out what Tillin needs to make him happy. Keep reading to find out what that is. Tillin lived his entire life alone in a small cage. The poor baboon didn't have a companion, and this is why he was so sad all the time. Now, this is truly heartbreaking. Can you imagine how difficult life must have been for Tillin? The poor baboon was locked up for 17 years without seeing another baboon. No wonder he is so sad all the time. But once he was free, everything changed. Scientists say that baboons need to have freedom in order to be happy. These animals love to climb on trees and to run around the jungle all day long. With this in mind, the rescuers who saved Tillin knew they needed to find him a companion. It was clear that Tillin needs a companion, but finding one is not that easy. Fortunately, another team of animal rescuers saved a female baboon from exotic animal trade named Tina. This is Tina, and she was saved from exotic animal trade. Just like Tillin, Tina also lived most of her life in captivity, and the rescuers knew she and Tillin are perfect for each other. You won't believe what they did on their first date. The rescuers put Tina in the cage next to Tillin to examine how they would react. To everyone's surprise, the two baboons got along right from the start. After setting them up on a couple of playdates, the rescuers decided that it was time to let them be together. Tillin fell in love with Tina right from the first day he saw her. Poor Tillin never saw a female baboon in his life, and he was happy to have someone to talk to. Even though Tillin and Tina were getting along just fine, the rescuers still stayed and supervised their playdates. The funny thing about this is that Tillin would yell at the rescuers until they hid behind a tree so that he couldn't see them anymore. The baboon cares about his privacy. After 17 long years of living in a small cage and performing at the circus, Tillin was finally living a good life. Not just that, but he had Tina to keep him company, and he was happier than ever. We think it's safe to say that Tillin and Tina deserve to live a good life, especially when considering what both of them have been through. However, this wouldn't be possible without animal defenders in her nation, Addie, who rescued the two baboons. The rescuers say that Tillin is so in love with Tina that he never likes it when she leaves. In fact, the only thing that Tillin does every time Tina is taken away for a medical exam or something like that is to wait for her to come back. What did you think of Tillin's story? The poor baboon lived a tough life, but luckily he was saved by ADI and everything changed for the better, especially since he met Tina. Man walks 20 miles to work until one day cop follows him and sees why. When it comes to work and business, many of us have experienced the moment when you have to push through no matter what and perform to your very best. Walter Carr, a 20-year-old college student from Homewood, who was hoping to become a Marine, knew that there was no turning back when his car broke down the evening before his first day at a new job, located 20 miles away. So, Walter did not hesitate and looked at the situation from a rather brave perspective. What did he decide to do? Take a long walk. Meet Walter Carr, a 20-year-old who moved to Homewood after him, and his mother lost their home due to Hurricane Katrina. A couple of days ago, Walter was getting ready for his first day at a moving company when his car broke down unexpectedly. Since his job was 20 miles away, he decided to walk. He started at midnight and was planning to reach his destination in the morning. While he was walking his 14th mile alone in the dark, a couple of policemen saw him and asked if he's all right. After Walter told what happened to him, they took him to have breakfast and gave him a ride to his work where he was supposed to help a family move. When he arrived at his destination, the owner of the house couldn't believe how committed Walter was to his work. So she wrote a heartwarming post about him and even created a Gofundme page for Walter to help him out. She was planning to raise $2,000 for Carr and it quickly grew all the way to 34,000. And that's not all. Once the CEO of the company where Walter worked heard about his employee's commitment, he gifted him his own car. It's safe to say that Walter couldn't believe what was happening to him that day. Carr's story touched many people and became a symbol of courage and kindness. They even came up with a #like Walter to support this young man. This guy has 17 freezers in his living room, but what he keeps in them is unbelievable. Why does he do it? Because somebody has to care. That is the answer Alan Law gives people when they ask him why he chooses to spend his days and nights delivering food and goods to people in need in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Known as the Sandwich Man, he has made it his life's mission to help the homeless and less fortunate since retiring from teaching 16 years ago. Since then, he has gone on to deliver thousands of sandwiches and tons of food, while raising much-needed awareness for the plight of those that he meets on the streets. His work has helped so many of them out in countless ways, and he has undeniably left a lasting impression on most of the people he has met. Thankfully, he doesn't have to do this all alone and works alongside friends, civic, church, and business groups to distribute donations and meals. An army of around 800 volunteers help to make the sandwiches and hand them out. He has so much bread, cheese, and meat stored at his house for this purpose that he needs 17 freezers to store it all. All those freezers take up his living room space and don't leave much room for anything else. That is why he is always seeking people to lend him any spare, unused space they may have so he can use it to temporarily store the goods and essentials that he hands out nightly. The number on the side of his car seems to sum up what Alan Law is all about. His minivan sports the figure 363. Most people assume it stands for the number of days he volunteers to help those in need. However, it fittingly represents the number of days a year that people don't think about the homeless or less fortunate, which is why he is out there day after day. Someone has to care at Alan Law. A Sandwich Man most definitely does. A man who adopted a stray kitten learned that they shared an unlikely connection. Adopting a cat is never easy, not least because there are so many to choose from at the shelter. Unfortunately for the kitties, too much competition means some of them spend much longer than anticipated waiting to find a new forever home. And that's especially true if they happen to have a visible health condition. So when Sweet Arlo was surrendered to Cats Protection's Bridgend Adoption Center in South Wales, staff there worried that he wouldn't find a new owner. But that all changed when the little tabby met his perfect match. Arlo was given to the shelter after his first family decided to move into an apartment that didn't allow cats. For whatever reason, the previous owners were unable to secure new accommodation that was pet-friendly. So the unlucky special needs feline had to bid farewell to his family and be taken into care. Yes, his former family decided to send their little tabby to live at the charity's Bridgend shelter in Wales. Presumably, it was a course of action they didn't want to have to take, but the rules of their new rented home forbade residents from having pets. At least, they didn't release him into the wild to fend for himself. Arlo probably felt extremely confused in his new home away from the only family he'd ever known, but the young tabby soon adjusted to shelter life. The staff quickly learned there was something special about this feline. Arlo is an absolute sweetheart, and he's charmed all the staff at the center, shelter manager Sue Dobbs said. Some cats are natural swees, and Arlo, by all accounts, is one such furball. He may look a bit different from other cats, but he's got a lot of love to give and is full of fun and mischief, Dobbs said. The tabby has hydrocephalus, which is a condition where there's an overabundance of fluid in the brain. The retained liquid gives Arlo his unique head shape. When he was admitted, the staff sent Arlo for a checkup. At the vet, they gave him a thorough exam and determined that despite his hydrocephalus, Arlo was a healthy feline. We're not able to tell what has caused Arlo's facial deformity, but it doesn't seem to be causing him a problem at the moment, Dobbs said. Though Arlo seemed healthy, Dobbs admitted he may have underlying issues, especially since the vet couldn't determine the cause of his hydrocephaly. These potential problems could impact Arlo's health, cutting into his life expectancy. When Arlo was eligible for adoption, Cat Protection's Bridgend shelter made sure this information was included. Dobbs and the rest of the staff were worried his potential health problems would hurt Arlo's chances at finding a new family. We really hope this won't put off prospective owners, as Arlo is such a lovely cat and deserves a happy and loving home, Dobbs said. But Cat Protection's Bridge and crew didn't have to worry for long. Once they posted the cutie to their adoption Facebook page, commenters were losing their minds for little Arlo. It's incredibly heartwarming to see how many people didn't mind about Arlo's health issues. All they saw was a sweet cat who needed a home. Happily, there were so many people who were interested in adopting Arlo that the shelter had plenty of amazing homes to choose between for the tabby. Yet, in the end, the lucky person who took him home wasn't a part of the cat-loving Facebook mob, converging on the adoption center's social media page. In fact, the guy was actually planning to take home an older cat. "I live alone in a little rural cottage and thought it would be ideal for an older cat," Davy said. "But my friends began to tag me in posts from Cats Protection about this little cat with additional needs." Arlo's Facebook photos and some gentle prodding from his friends were the motivation Davy needed to meet the one-year-old cat. When the two met, there was an immediate spark. Arlo had a special greeting for Davy. "He'd approached and gave me a lick, and I took that as a sign that we made a match," Davy said. "Just the first glance of him made me fall in love," Davy said, and Arlo does indeed seem to have that effect on people. As the wise Dua Lipa once said, "One kiss is all it takes / fallen in love with me." The tabby should make this his theme song. Besides his adorable nature, there's another reason Davy and Arlo had such a strong connection: Davy's day job. He's a social worker who assists disabled children. Now Davy's using his caregiving skills to be a dad for a disabled cat. The two seemed destined to find one another. When Arlo first arrived home with Davy, he was a bit uncomfortable in his new space. "He's very shy, nervous still, and doesn't like loud noises, but he's so loving," Davy said. "His personality is amazing. He's such a character." The furball also discovered how much he likes cuddling on Davy's lap. Davy started an Instagram for Arlo at Heartfeel Arlo, where he's been posting plenty of cat updates. "I just thought I would give you all a little update." Arlo has settled very well. He's a big fan of cuddling, watching Netflix. He wrote, "The disabled cat seems to have landed in a kingdom of loving care." Davy isn't the only person with whom Arlo is obsessed. During his first post-rescue trip to the vet, he gave everyone little kitty hugs. Can you imagine being a vet tech and then your feline patient gives you a hug? Too cute. It's especially impressive given that most cats seem to despise outings to the vets. Besides hugging people at the vet, Arlo has other adorable quirks, including chasing Davy around the house. When Davy heads to bed, Arlo tries to beat him there. Arlo also loves his dad's slippers. He steals them and cuddles with them in his cat bed. It's all great Instagram material. At his forever home, Arlo is an only cat, so he's extremely spoiled. He doesn't have to share Davy with anyone else. He has his own aquarium, and he can sleep on a windowsill and watch birds. And after a rough day of, well, being a cat, Arlo always finds his place in Davy's lap. Since Arlo is such a cuddler, he sleeps beside Davy at night. In the mornings, Davy is greeted with loud purrs from his feline friend. Arlo might have had a rough beginning, but it looks as though he's living his best life now. Both Davy and his wonderful cat have a lifetime of cuddles in prospect. And if you're looking for the perfect cat, there's a chance they're already waiting for you at your local shelter. Stop by and see for yourself. Some believe that adopted cats seem extra loving. Compared to cats from a breeder, they're somehow more aware that fate has smiled on them again. Of course, sometimes even a seemingly normal kitten can surprise you as it matures. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and smash that like button. We really appreciate your continuous support.